So I've had a lot of success with online dating in my life. In fact, in my 20s and 30s, I had two major relationships that I developed through online. And then, then Brett and I were married for 9 years, and then I was on my own for another, 5 or 6 years, and I didn't actually think about online dating until about last fall. And last fall, I had like a 2-3 run. I made some very interesting connections, but ultimately didn't really get past the first date on any of them. My life was still a little bit in transition and chaotic. And then I moved to Asheville in the spring, and I started on 2 sites. About a couple months ago, I started on OkCupid and Meet Mindful, and very quickly I manifested 2 very, very fine women, conscious, beautiful, emotionally intelligent, interesting, and we've sort of been, at the moment, none of them has actually gotten sexual romantic, but in the end, we weren't actually compatible like that. But, we've become very, very good friends. And just having these women in my life has been like really, really beautiful and valuable for me. Because I did not come in from a very high self-esteem place, shall we say. So essentially, I've become like a huge fan of online dating with some very important caveats, which I want to share with you today. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the queen of excellent first dates. I mean, unlike Mark, I'm not a huge fan of online dating. Although I know people who have been successful at that. My sister is married to a man that she met on Plenty of Fish. The thing I want to say about online dating is it fun for you? If it's fun for you, it will work. If you're doing it because you think you have to and it's the only way to meet people, it probably won't. And so more so for me, I dabble in online dating, more so because I'm bored and it's just fun to occasionally chat with people. I'm more successful in real life. I like to join meetups and go and do things with other people who I know already have something in common with me. And from there, make connections. When I do date with online dates, I have a strategy that I call our only date. Like one of the things that I find people do is they go on first dates like job interviews. It's all about what do you like? Do you fit my pictures? And we kind of end up grilling each other, right, in this attempt to create connection. And I like to approach first dates as, what if this was our only date, and how can I make it as fun as possible? And when that's my goal, yes, I'm kind of trying to find things out about them, and I'm trying to share things about them, and I think we'll probably go into this a little bit more, but it's a very different headspace. And it usually, even if I never see them again, means that I haven't felt like I wasted that 2 hours of my life being at coffee with them. And I also love what Mark said about, you manifested and created connection with 2 wonderful women, and even though it didn't turn into something sexual or romantic, it's grown your tribe. So sometimes when we let go of that need for a pair-bonded partner, we're more available to the actual love and intimacy and possibility that's available from everyone. So Mark, I would say that you are an extremely successful dater because you found a way to enjoy the connections you make with everybody, regardless of whether they invite you into their bed.
Right. Thanks, Rebecca. And what you're saying highlights one very important thing for me, which is like, if it ain't fun, guys, don't do it, or figure out a way to make it fun. And the best way that you can do to make it fun is to actually learn authentic relating and practice authentic relating and sexual authenticity and sexual communication on your dates, right? That is that's the killer app for any kind of relationship, sexual or not. And this is the A-bomb of relationships. And if you learn authentic relating and sexual communication and you're practicing on your dates, you are going to stand out from the crowd. I can assure you. Right? I have discovered this. All right. And this is what I'm practicing. And part of that is, you have to be clear of your intentions. Like there is definitely an intention for a sexual connection or romantic connection, but you also have to sort of let go of that as well. And you have to sort of be present to who the other person is, and who they are and what they want. All right. So this is a tricky thing. All right. let me sort of get into some ideas here, some content, and I'm going to sort of present myself as a case study here, just to give you sort of a frame around what to do and not to do. I've kind of made every mistake in the book, right? And still, I'm able to be successful in there, so relatively successful, at least at a beginning stage. So first of all, what I want to say is that this may seem obvious, but it's worthwhile saying there's a number of cases in which you should not be dating. Okay, number one, if you're unemployed. Number two, if you're an active, alcoholic or addict. Number three, if you're an emotional basket case. And this one isn't as strong as the other ones, but if you're, you ought to be reasonably fit and in good health. So, you really ought to be practicing or at least have a plan to be working on your health. And by the way, this has been one of my blind spots as well. Like, I haven't really been physically active. I haven't been dancing. And by the way, if you're like a single, and particularly if you're a single man and you're not dancing, you're actually not serious about your romantic life. Dancing it's the best way to start a relationship other than online dating, and in some cases it's better, right? The only way in which online dating is better is that you can instantly get a pretty good bird's eye view of a person from their profile, which you would not necessarily be able to get them if you're just having a dance with them. And particularly ballroom dancing. Ballroom dancing is particularly valuable because it amplifies the polarity. So, and we talked a little bit about sexual polarity last time, and we made a video on it, and we'll kind of briefly get into it this time as well. All right, so.
Which is not to say that if you don't dance and you're a terrible dancer and you hate dancing, you can't be a successful dater. Dancing is a great way to create connection. It's very sensual. I will say that women often judge a man by how his body moves and whether he's going to be good in bed or not. It's something that we're looking for. But, the truth is, what's your hobby? What are you good at? Do you love to hike? Go hike. And I think what you're saying, Mark, also speaks to embodiment, which is pretty important. If you're dating as a head, you've got all these pictures of who you want to meet and do they fit into them, but you're not connected to your body. It's a little bit of a limitation to how much you will be present when you actually get a chance to be intimate and sensual with them. So what are the things you can do that bring you back to your personal empowerment, your personal embodiment?
Yeah, precisely. And this is yet another reason why dancing is so powerful. It's physical. I mean, sexuality is a physical activity, guys. Let's face it, right?
And yeah, beautiful. And I want to say that Mark and I, when we were talking about this, and he let me know that he believes if you're not employed, you shouldn't date. And we kind of disagree on this one.
Okay, I do have some important qualifications. Do you mind if I give my qualifications first, or caveats? Okay, and then you can chime in.
And let's just qualify that these are your points of view. They're what you've experienced. In fact, everything we teach you today is descriptive from our personal point of view. I would love for you to get the idea that you want to measure this against your personal value system. Does something feel light to you when we say it? That means it'll possibly work for you. Does it feel heavy when we say it? That means it isn't going to be true for you. It's not true in your reality. And that's way more important than swallowing piecemeal anything that either of us has to say.
I agree. Okay, thanks, Rebecca. That was great. And actually, yeah, so Rebecca was giving very important qualifiers, and I want to sort of add some qualifiers. So, the bottom line is, frequently we hear people say, what are the rules? It's like I'm, X years old and no one ever taught me and I don't know how to do it. All right. And here's the good news, guys. There are no rules. You make the rules. Right?
Yeah.
All right. And so when I give you sort of guidelines, you should be dating, you should not be dating, ultimately only you decide whether you're ready to date. All right. And, I'm not going to go into my own story in great detail, but, by many, many standards, I myself am not qualified to date. I'm barely employed. I'm sort of like this visionary dreamer entrepreneur on this, mission of love kind of thing. I don't have any money. I'm sort of like not so much on my body. I've had a number of traumas for the last year, major business failure, early this year. It's like by many conventional standards, I'm undateable, right? But I don't listen to that, right? And because nobody is perfect. All right. And if you wait to feel entirely ready to go out there and meet people where they're at, you may be waiting a long time. And the other thing to realize is the most important factor in your success in dating it's not how beautiful and successful and popular you are. It's how you make them feel. Okay? And this, how you make them feel, relates to the quality of attention and care that you bring to the people in your environment, and particularly to your dates, and also how confident and secure you are about yourself. And you could be a total mess, and many times in the last year to 18 months I felt like a total mess. But if you sort of approach the game of dating and relationship with honesty and vulnerability, and you have a minimal degree of compassion for yourself, and self-love, and understanding that you're an imperfect human being, you will score. I can guarantee. In score, I'm not necessarily talking about getting laid. I'm talking about making interesting connections that are going to add something to your life, and is going to add something to someone else's life, right? So that's my caveat, which reflects pretty much what you were saying, Rebecca. Is there you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I really do, because one of the technologies I use is called Access Consciousness, and you can learn more about that at accessconsciousness.com. But the question I want to ask is, and just entertain this, it's a rhetorical question to bring up awareness, what if you're never really a mess? What if all the places that you've judged yourself as being a mess are just the places where you needed to break down in order to build up? What if our perspective is the thing that we can shift? When you're judging yourself and you bring those self-judgments out into the dating world, you can actually become more attractive if you put them in those things you think about yourself in a different framework.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's beautiful. And I think, what Rebecca's highlighting, it's really all in your mindset, or how you think of yourself. And as I'm thinking here, it's like I'd like to invite you all just to kind of feel into yourself as well. What kind of stories have you created that will negatively impact your dating life? And I think this is kind of the important thing that I want to say, is that we all have stories that make us unfit for love.
And this is, I think, an important step to getting out there and being successful in your dating world, is being willing to look at, what story am I running about why I can't be successful? And questioning, is it really true with a capital T? Or is it just a perspective that I've inherited? Is it a perspective I'm empathing from the culture at large? But the feeling of, I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too broke, I'm too whatever, all of those are just justifications we give for not going after what we really want in life.
Yes.
And
thanks, Rebecca. That's exactly what I'm saying. So a story is essentially something you've made up, and it could be true or it could be false, right? And just, because here's the second piece, is that, we get into a little bit of philosophy here, but for me, sexuality, it's the ultimate frontier of human development. All right, as we contemplate our relationships, and particularly as we contemplate our sexual relationships, we are deeply challenged in our beingness. We have to face our developmental gaps. We have to face our stories. We have to face all of our self-esteem issues come up. All right, and this is partly what makes it so interesting, guys. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, and potentially so fun, because to succeed in relationships, and doubly so in sexual relationships, you pretty well have to be willing to just totally reevaluate everything you thought you knew, and particularly, questioning, a lot of cultural beliefs. If you're a woman, you're going to have to challenge cultural stereotypes around attractiveness. If you're a man, you're going to have to challenge cultural stereotypes around success and power and masculinity and all of that. Okay, so that's enough of a frame, and we're going to start to get into some actual dating strategies here. So I have a list of maybe 8 or 10 dating strategies, which I don't want us to spend the entire session lecturing, because we want to turn it back to you and practice some authentic relating, right?
I'll give you a secret. We've been modeling one part of authentic relating, and that's creating a culture of acknowledgement. So you might notice Mark shares something, I go, oh, that's really beautiful, and then I'll add to it. Oh, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing that. You cannot acknowledge people too much. I mean, you can. Some people will get full and they'll go stop. and then you'll know it's maybe time. But particularly as women, and this is a little piece of that we discussed in the sexual polarity segment, is that there's a tendency, we're trained as women to find what's wrong with men and nag them until they fix it. That's what I was taught. It's really not a winning strategy. So one of the things that we can do, particularly as women, is find reasons to acknowledge and compliment the men in our lives. Tell them what they're doing right. And then they will do more of that. You know, and you cannot go wrong telling a woman how much she touches you, how attractive you find her, how the qualities of her being impact you. That's a place where mostly female-bodied people thrive. Men tend to value themselves by their production. Women tend to value themselves by their being.